We've got a very busy show today with injury updates, trade rumors, and what exactly did Mathew Barzal say? We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Wow, we have got a lot to discuss on today's show. We're going to start with injury updates and, well, let's just say the updates are mixed at this time. Let's start with Noah Dobson, which everybody was talking about. And Dobson, as we know, left the game on Monday night after taking a hit from Cole Sillinger. And I don't think anybody thought it was a dirty hit by any stretch of the imagination. But we all saw that the right leg of Noah Dobson bent in a way that the human body was not meant to bend. And he did manage to skate off on his own power, but, did not look particularly good. We did not get an official diagnosis from the Islanders. And look, let's face it, the best we're going to get from the Islanders is lower body injury. And then we'll probably either hear day to day, week to week, whatever the case may be. There have been some comments that, it could be a while because Noah Dobson did not practice with the Islanders on Tuesday. And, they basically did not give a timetable for his return. Now, some doctors who have been projecting hockey injuries, a doctor named Horace Grewal, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, basically said concern is a high ankle sprain and or MCL injury for Dobson. Time off depends on the grade of the injury, but would not surprise me if this was reported as a 4 to 6 week timeline. 4 to 6 weeks would certainly not be good for the New York Islanders. It basically puts the Islanders in a situation where you're coming right up to the trade deadline when Noah Dobson, if it's 6 weeks, when he would be returning. And let's even say it's 4 weeks. The most likely thing would be that, he's just starting to get back into hockey shape by the time the trade deadline emerges. And remember a couple of things. Noah Dobson is a restricted free agent after this season with arbitration rights. So, does this lower his value for the New York Islanders? Can they afford to sign him for less? Does it take away the possibility of a trade because he's not healthy and going to miss a certain amount of time, and we may not know how good he is when he returns? There are a lot of ifs going around for the Islanders. Short term, they're going to miss Noah Dobson. For Dobson, short term, assuming that this estimate is correct, and again, we don't know anything for certain. The Islanders have not announced the timetable, but it looked bad. And if Dobson's going to miss a few weeks, that's going to affect the Islanders in a big, big way. And every day, as we discussed on the show yesterday, how the Islanders really do not have another offensive-minded defenseman who can replace Dobson and come close to his level of play. Now, Dennis Cholowski would probably move up from the 7th defenseman to the everyday lineup. Probably going to see a lot more minutes, probably going to run the first power play unit. It also most likely means that Grant Hutton will get the call and step in as the 7th defenseman. And then, will the Islanders place Dauber on IR? Will they place him on LTIR? All of these things are, just kind of up in the air right now. So that certainly isn't good. Some good news, though. On Tuesday, the Islanders had an event for season ticket holders and other people who got tickets for it with some of the players. Mike Reilly was there. Reilly basically indicating that he does intend to return this season. Again, no timetable for Reilly's return necessarily. It is not imminent, but Reilly is expected to be back at some point this year. Now, trade rumors, and boy, oh boy, we are going to be filled with them now. More trade rumors concerning Brock Nelson. So let's start with the Brock news. First of all, a report basically in the hockey news reporting that the Washington Capitals are now interested in Brock Nelson. And keep in mind that according to this report, Nelson, the Capitals may not necessarily want him to sign an extension. They may be willing to look at Nelson as a rental player. And he would certainly be a great addition to the Capitals, giving them a lot of forward depth. So we'll see. The issue for the Capitals is this. Brock Nelson has a $6 million cap hit. The Capitals have $3.65 million left. The big question becomes, would the Islanders retain some salary? And I think that would make sense if it means that the Islanders can get a better return on this trade. And then, what are the Capitals willing to give up? They do have a number of prospects, including some defensemen, who the Islanders could definitely be interested in. So we'll see. One name that was kind of mentioned was Henrik Rybinski, who is a 23-year-old winger with the Hershey Bears. Hendrix Lapierre is also another guy who the Islanders might be interested in. He was a first-round pick in 2020, but has struggled at the NHL level. Some other young defensemen like Ryan Chesley, Leon Muggley, or Vincent Iorio. Again, all guys who might be available, but you also have draft picks. There are a number of different, options out there. The Islanders have, reportedly, said that it's going to take at least a first-round pick to make that happen for either Nelson and or Palmieri. We'll see, whether or not any of that happens. And then some other rumors, according to Frank Saravalli of the Daily Faceoff, he said that there were 5 teams that he knew of who are interested in Brock Nelson. They include the Minnesota Wild, and remember, Brock is from the state of Minnesota, the Winnipeg Jets, just north of Minnesota, the New Jersey Devils, the Boston Bruins, the Carolina Hurricanes. We also, again, mentioned the Washington Capitals. Plenty of suitors out there for Brock Nelson. And let's face facts, okay? The New York Islanders, if what we heard was true, that Brock Nelson has indicated, or his agent indicated, that Nelson wants to test the free agent market July 1st. It would be a major mistake by Lou Lamoriello to not trade Nelson at the deadline unless you can extend him. And again, and I really, really am concerned about this. If you extend him, it's got to be 2 years, 3 years max at a team-friendly rate. And remember, Brock Nelson, he's 33. This is probably his last chance to sign a big contract for multiple years. I doubt he will offer that generous of a hometown discount at that short a term. So you got to make a move. You have to make a move. And with Dobson out of the lineup, it is even more difficult for the New York Islanders to make the playoffs this year. So again, more reasons to sell, as they say, right now. We know Lou Lamoriello is reluctant to do it, but if Dauber is out, there's even more reasons to doubt that this team could end up making a run at the playoffs and trying to pass the 6 or 7 teams they're going to need to pass. And this will be a great opportunity if Dobson is out for a while for Dennis Cholowski. He will get a chance to play real minutes and we'll get a chance to see what he could do. But, unless Cholowski surprises everybody, the Islanders will be missing their best offensive defenseman, and no other player on the roster from an offensive standpoint, no other defenseman comes close. All right. We have got a lot more to get to. A little controversy about something that Mathew Barzal allegedly said on the bench on Monday night. We'll talk about that. We'll have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. And coming up for our Islanders birthday of the day, well, this one's easy. The first round pick of the Islanders in 1977, who went on to become the greatest pure goal scorer in NHL history. Let's see if you can guess who that is. It's an easy one. We got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Stanley Cup. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family structure secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor their coverage to fit your unique needs. And if you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. Select Quote, they shop, you save. So, a little controversy going on around social media concerning one Mathew Barzal. And look, this one is a little, I don't know, surprising. But Barzal basically on the bench on Monday turned to a teammate and was caught on camera talking about, allegedly, because there's no sound, but lip readers have come in and said that Barzal turned to a teammate and basically said, "This place is bleeping empty. bleeping empty, bleeping joke, bro. And yeah, that just seems to be what a lot of people interpreted that as. And I wanted to talk about it. Look, we don't hear the whole conversation. We do not know the context. And I don't want to criticize Mathew Barzal. But here's the bottom line. Barzy shouldn't be surprised at this point in time that the arena is not full. Okay? The New York Islanders right now remain in last place in the Metropolitan Division. They are still under NHL 500. Expectations for the season, rightfully or wrongfully, were higher. The Islanders are 7 points out of the final playoff spot. But keep in mind, and yeah, they have a game in hand on most of the teams, 2 on Boston. But keep in mind, there are still 7 teams that the Islanders would need to pass in order to make a playoff spot. And they're going to have to do it without Noah Dobson probably for at least a few weeks based on those preliminary indications. Add to the fact that this team has a worse record at home than they do on the road. Does not play what most people would interpret as a very exciting, entertaining brand of hockey. And hasn't won a playoff round in 3 years and counting. And I think it is understandable that a lot of fans who have already bought tickets, because officially they announce 15,000 at almost every game, sometimes more. There are reasons that fans would choose not to show up right now. And, if you want to have the fans show up, the best way to accomplish that is to win hockey games. You win hockey games. Islander fans are loyal to a fault. They are behind their team 110%. But when it's $40 just to park your car, not to mention the cost of tickets, the cost of food and beverages, you're dropping for just you and your spouse or you and your child to go to a game. You're dropping $200-300 minimum. And you know what? If you're complaining about the lack of people in the seats, win hockey games. That will get more people in. The other thing, again, and it sort of all ties together from an Islanders fan perspective. Right now, this team has an aging roster. Most of the players are on the wrong side of 30. The prospect pool is still in the bottom third of the league, and most of the prospects who are more highly regarded on the Islanders are still at least 2 years away after this year from making the NHL. Talking about guys like Danny Nelson, Cole Yzerman, and the like. These guys are not going to be Islanders this year or next year. You're looking at least another couple of years. So the pipeline is not great. The salary cap situation is very bad. The team has too many of these older players who are either on bad contracts that other teams will not want to touch, or players that have full or modified no movement clauses. So you would need, for example, Adam Pelech or Ryan Pollock to agree to a trade in order to move them. Scott Mayfield, same thing. Pierre Engvall, a 7-year deal with 5 years after this year. left on his contract. You are in a situation where the short-term hope for the future, and when I say short-term, I'm talking 2 to 3 years, is not looking overly optimistic to most fans. And as a result, add in the weather that we had Sunday into Monday. That also, I'm sure, did not help attendance with the snow and the freezing cold temperatures. You're not going to sell out the building, and the people who may have already bought tickets may not show up. And you know what? If you really want to know the situation for tickets and the demand, look on the secondary market. Look on the secondary market. Go to, Game Time is one of our sponsors. You go to on the Game Time app, take a look at how cheap Islander tickets are for some of these home games, especially weekday home games. The demand is not there. So you want to change that. You got to play better hockey, win more games, be more consistent and entertaining, and give the fans hope for the future. Right now, they don't have any of those things on a consistent basis. So, look, if Mathew Barzal is frustrated by the lack of attendance, that is not a bad thing. And it should be a motivating factor for him and his teammates. But at the end of the day, the reality is that this team needs change and needs it soon, because they are in the muddy middle and sinking slowly, and that is not what fans want to see. All right, more to get to on today's show. We have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. And Islander fans, it's not just the NFL playoffs. You can use your knowledge of the Islanders and of hockey to find some exciting opportunities on FanDuel. So check out the odds for Friday's game against the Flyers. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from our hosts, Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time for our weekly farm report. We do it every Wednesday during the season as we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders. And the Islanders, well, they played 4 games in the last week. We had the Martin Luther King birthday holiday on Monday. That was an extra opportunity for a matinee. You had a Wednesday game and then the 2 usual weekend games. Last Wednesday, the Islanders lost to the Springfield Thunderbirds 4-0 at home in Bridgeport. And the shutout by Colton Ellis of the Springfield Thunderbirds, that was his first AHL shutout. And of course, the Islanders do not get on the scoreboard in this one. And Henrik Tikkanen ends up taking the loss. Then the next game against the Syracuse Crunch, again at home. First professional goal for Cam Thiesing, but that was it. Islanders lose to the Crunch by a score of 4-1. And, this was a tough one for Bridgeport. Again, not doing well this year and not doing well, especially at home. Then, again on the weekend, on January 18th, again, it's the Thunderbirds and the Islanders. The Islanders do get some more goals this time, but fall to the Thunderbirds 6-4. You had 3 points from Liam Foudy. Meanwhile, you had a goal and an assist from Samuel Bolduc and Chris Terry, but it wasn't enough as Springfield wins the game by scoring 6. Hugh McGing had 2 goals and an assist for Springfield. But Eetu Liukas, by the way, gets the other goal for Bridgeport. That was his first of the year. Meanwhile, Hunter Miska was the goalie. That was his Bridgeport Islanders debut. He faced 43 shots, still made 37 saves, but obviously losing that game 6-4. And then on Martin Luther King's birthday, Monday, the Islanders end the losing streak. They beat the Thunderbirds by a score of 4-3. So they finally beat Springfield. Chris Terry, Liam Foudy, and Eetu Liukas score. And Foudy had 2 goals and an assist. So that was back-to-back 3-point games for Foudy. Henrik Tikkanen made 38 saves to get the win. And the Islanders at least managed to get 1 win out of the 4 games they played last week. Chris Terry remains the team's leader in points with 32, 9 goals, 23 assists. The leading goal scorer, Brian Pino, with 17. He has 27 points. Liam Foudy, 25 points, 13 of those goals. Alex Jeffries, 8 goals, 23 points in 34 games. Samuel Bolduc, once again, leading all defensemen. He has 4 goals and 15 points in 35 games. And it is just, a tough time right now for the Bridgeport Islanders. They are now 9-25-4 on the season. They are 15 points out of 7th place in the Atlantic Division. Springfield is in 7th place, and yes, Springfield has a game in hand on Bridgeport, and right now, the Bridgeport Islanders do have the worst record in the AHL. They will play 3 games this week before we do our next farm report. Today, 7 o'clock Eastern time, it's an away game at the Utica Comets, followed by a Friday road game in Syracuse against the Crunch, and then Saturday, a 7:05 Eastern time start at Lehigh Valley. So the next 3 games all on the road. It's part of a 4-game road trip that started in Springfield Monday afternoon. And again, all of these games are available on AHL TV. And if you want to watch some of the Islanders' future prospects play now before they reach the island, well, check that out. We will do our farm report again every Wednesday until the season is over. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day, and this would have been the 68th birthday of former Islanders winger Mike Bossy, drafted first round, 15th overall by the Islanders in 1977. Also drafted by the Indianapolis Racers of the WHA rather, but chose to sign with the Islanders. Mike Bossy, 53 goals as a rookie, 69 goals and 126 points in his second season. Bossy never scored less than 50 goals in a season until his final year in the NHL, when he scored only, and I'll put that in air quotes, 38 goals, because he was limited to 63 games and the bad back injury that ended up ending his career really slowed him down. Add 85 goals and 160 points in 129 career playoff games. And that says a lot. Won the Conn Smythe Trophy in 1981-82, won the Calder Trophy in 77-78, and 3 Lady Byng trophies in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and clearly, by a long, big margin, the greatest goal scorer in Islanders history, and maybe game for game, the greatest pure goal scorer in NHL history. If he would have played longer, you could only imagine the totals that Mike Bossy could have amassed. There are so many games to choose from for Mike Bossy, but we're going to go back and look at a special game. January 24th, 1981. Mike Bossy trying to get to match Maurice the Rocket Richard's 50 goals in 50 games. The Quebec Nordique visiting the Coliseum. Ron Graham, the goalie for Quebec. Chico Resch in between the pipes for the Islanders. And in this game with Quebec and the Islanders tied at 3, and then tied at 4, Mike Bossy ends up getting going. And Bossy ends up scoring 2 goals in less than 3 minutes, all in the last 4 minutes and 10 seconds of the game. His 50th comes with 1:29 left. Brian Trottier and John Tonelli assist. Then Bossy sets up Trottier a mere 19 seconds after that. So it was 50 in 50 for Mike Bossy, and you could see the highlights on YouTube if you want to catch it. Mike Bossy finishes this game with 2 goals, 1 assist. He's a +2. He had 6 shots on goal. He scored the game winner. And, this was a great game. Stefan Pearson had 5 assists. John Tonelli had only 4. But Mike Bossy was the man of the moment, tying Rocket Richard's record with all those 50 goals in 50 games. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We'll hopefully have more injury news on Noah Dobson. We'll also have the latest trade rumors. Plus, don't forget, you could send us if you have a question, a comment, a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, so join me for some instant insight and analysis. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, keep warm, and of course, let's go Islanders.